subscribe to my channel.
What if the journey didn't end with your final breath, but instead truly began? There's an ancient whisper passed down through veiled traditions and forbidden scrolls. A belief echoed in Tibetan monasteries, echoed in Egyptian tombs, and coded within forgotten Gnostic texts, that the soul, upon leaving the body, enters a mysterious 49-day passage, a liminal voyage through unseen realms, shadowed memories, and karmic echoes. It is not simply a transition, it is a reckoning, a sacred unfolding of the soul's deepest truths. While the physical body decays and the world mourns what it thinks is loss, the soul embarks on an odyssey, one shaped by intention, attachment, and awareness. It traverses realms both dazzling and dreadful, guided not by angels or demons, but by the residue of its own consciousness. But where did this knowledge originate? Why do cultures separated by continents and centuries speak of this same enigmatic cycle? Could it be that the 49-day journey isn't a metaphor but a spiritual law, one as natural and undeniable as gravity? In this video, we'll lift the veil on this arcane mystery. You'll discover why the soul does not cross instantly into the afterlife, but instead weaves through intricate stages, facing illusions, shedding identities, and meeting the truth of its own vibration. We'll explore teachings from the Tibetan Book of the Dead, ancient Egyptian funerary texts, and esoteric interpretations lost to modern spirituality. And we'll examine what this means, not only for the dying but for the living, for you. Because understanding death is to understand life itself. Prepare to venture into the threshold of worlds, a place where time dissolves and your very essence is laid bare. This is not myth. This is the forgotten map of the soul, and it begins with the moment your heart stops beating. Long before modern science dissected death into neurological flatlines and medical jargon, the ancients saw it as an initiation, an awakening of the soul through layers of subtle realms. Death was not feared. It was studied, mapped, and revered as a sacred science. One of the most profound sources of this knowledge comes from the Tibetan Bardo Thodol, commonly known as the Tibetan Book of the Dead. Written by the great mystic Padmasambhava in the Yue 8th century, this text describes the Bardo, a word meaning in-between state. According to Tibetan Buddhism, after death, the soul enters a transitional phase that lasts exactly 49 days. During this time, the soul undergoes a series of visionary experiences, karmic purifications, and confrontations with both divine and terrifying forms, manifestations of its own mind. But Tibet was not alone in this belief. In ancient Egypt, funerary texts like the Book of the Dead and the Amduat reveal similar journeys. The soul, or ka, traverses the underworld, duat, in stages, encountering gates, guardians, and tests of moral truth. The famous weighing of the heart against the feather of Ma'at is not a moment, it is a process, a symbolic judgment that reflects the same purgative phases echoed in the Tibetan bardos. In the Pythagorean mystery schools of ancient Greece, the soul's transmigration after death was timed in sevens, mirroring the esoteric cycles of planetary influence. The number 49 being 7 was considered the culmination of spiritual transformation. 7 chakras, 7 heavens, 7 days of creation, 7 stages of man. The repetition of 7 compounded marked a portal of alchemical rebirth. Even in early Christian Gnostic texts, one finds references to the soul ascending through planetary spheres, each one stripping the soul of worldly illusions. Though often buried by orthodoxy, these mystical teachings reveal a blueprint eerily consistent with Eastern doctrines. So why don't we hear about this anymore? Much of this knowledge was obscured or intentionally hidden. As empires rose, spiritual traditions were consolidated, simplified, and sanitized. The raw, experiential understanding of death as a conscious journey was replaced by rigid dogmas: heaven, hell, purgatory, binary endpoints instead of multidimensional transformations. Moreover, Western materialism dismissed the idea of a soul altogether. In a world dominated by logic and sensory proof, the inner realms of death became superstition, unseen, therefore unreal. But these teachings persisted underground, kept alive by mystics, monks, shamans, and seekers. And today, science is beginning to circle back. Near-death experiences, shared death experiences, and studies on consciousness post-cardiac arrest are shaking the old assumptions. Many report a timeless space where their life flashes before them, voices call them, or visions of light and shadow appear, hauntingly similar to descriptions in sacred texts written centuries ago. Could it be that the soul, like the caterpillar, does not perish, but enters a cocoon of metaphysical refinement, and that this cocoon has a cycle, a duration, purpose? The ancients believed so, and they left us breadcrumbs through sacred numerology, through metaphorical myth, through coded manuscripts. The 49-day cycle is not merely about what happens after death. It's about what we carry into it and what we must let go of, because in that cycle we meet ourselves, stripped of ego, name, and memory, and what remains is the truth of our being. The moment of death is not an end, it is a doorway. When the final breath escapes the body, a subtle shift occurs. The soul, unshackled from flesh, hovers momentarily between worlds. This is the first bardo, the Chikai bardo in Tibetan tradition. Here the individual encounters a brilliant, boundless light. This is not metaphor. It is the clear light of the mind, pure consciousness beyond identity, story, or time. If the soul recognizes this light and merges with it, liberation is instant. But most don't. Why? Because the ego, the self-construct, shaped by desires, fears, and past lives, is still clinging. The brilliance is too vast, too unfamiliar. The soul recoils, just as eyes squint at the midday sun. And so, the journey begins. Phase 1. The dissolution of the elements, days 1-4. As the physical body is released, the subtle body begins to unravel. This process unfolds in elemental stages. Earth dissolves into water, a sensation of sinking, heaviness, or collapsing. Physical sensations fade. Water dissolves into fire. Emotions surge and vanish. Warmth turns to chill. Fire dissolves into air. The inner light flickers. Breath, both literal and etheric, leaves. Air dissolves into consciousness. The final veil lifts. The ancients saw this as the soul passing through gates, each one shedding a layer of identity. These elements are not external. They are you, your body, emotions, energy, thoughts. And They must be left behind. Phase 2. The mirror of the mind, days 5 to 2014. Now begins the Chonyid Bardo, the Bardo of visions. Here, the soul confronts the projections of its own consciousness. It is a realm where thoughts become form. Whatever was hidden in life is magnified in death. The Tibetan texts describe encounters with deities of light, peaceful Buddhas, radiant bodhisattvas. These are archetypes of enlightened qualities: compassion, wisdom, purity. If the soul recognizes them, it can ascend, but each light is followed by a darker mirror. Wrathful deities, terrifying and chaotic, emerge. Fangs, flames, thunderous sounds. But these too are you. They represent suppressed fears, attachments, and unresolved karma. They are not punishments. They are revelations. What the soul sees is not objective, it is reflective. The pure of heart see beauty. The tormented see distortion. It's like standing before a cosmic mirror that shows your true essence. No masks, no lies. This is where many souls falter. They flee from the frightening, forgetting that behind the monster stands their own face. Recognition is salvation. Rejection is delay. Phase 3. The pull of karma, days 15-21. As the visions fade, the soul enters a strange in-between, a weightless drift through a realm known in some traditions as the Hall of Karma or the Field of Resonance. Here, the soul is magnetically drawn toward its next destination, not by judgment, but by vibration. Like attracts like. If the soul still clings to desire, fear, or unfinished business, it begins to gravitate toward realms that reflect those energies. Lower frequencies lead to denser worlds, some painful, some simply mundane. Higher frequencies lead to realms of learning, healing, or rest. This is not heaven or hell in the conventional sense. It's closer to a resonance field. Imagine striking a tuning fork. Whatever tone you emit, that's the realm you awaken into. Some souls are drawn immediately to rebirth. Others linger, observing, searching. Some don't even realize they've died, caught in loops of memory or emotion, what many near-death experiencers call the phantom life. And so the soul drifts onward, suspended between echoes and awakenings, but this is only the beginning. There are deeper mysteries still, hidden stages, karmic crossroads, and secret choices that await between days 22 and 49. Because the question is not only what happens after death, it's also, who are you when everything else is stripped away? As the soul crosses beyond the midpoint of its 49-day journey, it begins to move from reflection into reorientation. This second half, the twilight of the Bardo, holds secrets few spiritual texts dare to name. Phase 4. The realm of choice and the illusion of return, days 22-35. By this stage, the soul has experienced its elemental dissolution, karmic mirror, and resonance field. But now, it enters a liminal state known in esoteric circles as the corridor of infinite paths. Here, the soul is offered subtle choices, but not the kind we're used to. These are not made with logic or thought, but through resonance and intention. Ancient mystery schools taught that during this phase, the soul stands before interdimensional gates, portals to different experiences of time, reality, or incarnation. Some lead back to Earth, others lead to higher planes, worlds of light, teaching or rest, and some are traps. The Egyptians warned of these in their books of the underworld. They called them the false doors, realms that seemed comforting but were illusions, built from egoic patterns. The Gnostics referred to them as archontic traps, constructs designed to recycle the soul endlessly, keeping it from awakening to its true origin. This is where discernment matters. The soul is lured not by malice but by its own desires, to see loved ones again, to redo unfinished stories, to indulge in what it clung to in life. But wisdom whispers, let go. Because the deepest truth is this: you are not your story. Phase 5. The Council of Light and the Hidden Watchers. Days 36-42. Many esoteric traditions speak of a moment when the soul is met by beings of light, not projections but intelligences, beyond the soul's own mind. Some call them guides, elders, overseers, or even karmic architects. These beings do not judge in the moral sense. Instead, they help the soul review its journey across lifetimes, what it learned, where it resisted, and how it evolved. This is the famous life review, often described by near-death experiencers. But what they rarely understand is that this review is not linear, it is holographic. The soul feels not just its own actions, but the ripples, the way a kind word uplifted a stranger, or a harsh word caused pain unseen. These insights are not meant to punish, but to liberate, to help the soul see beyond itself, to shift from identity to essence. And sometimes, if the soul has matured enough, the council offers a choice: return with a higher purpose, rest in realms of peace, or move on to planes where individuality dissolves and unity is remembered. Most choose rebirth, not from ignorance but from love, the desire to grow, to serve, to complete unfinished harmonies. Phase 6. The Final Descent, or Ascent. Days 43-49. The last 7 days are known in Tibetan teaching as the Sidpa Bardo, the Bardo of Becoming. By now the soul is crystallizing its next phase. If rebirth is chosen or drawn to by karma, visions of the future life begin to form, parents, environments, even major life lessons. But for the awakened soul, this is not a passive descent. It becomes a sacred re-entry, a choosing of time, place, and role based on its soul contract and higher mission. Yet for others, the descent is unconscious. The soul is pulled, like a leaf in a river, toward whatever reflects its most dominant unresolved energies. And here's the hidden twist. Some souls do not reincarnate as humans. Depending on frequency and karma, they may incarnate into entirely different life forms or even subtle dimensional realms unseen by our world. The ancient Vedic texts speak of lokas, vast multidimensional domains of existence, each with its own laws and lessons. The 49th day marks the soul's threshold crossing, the moment it steps into its next incarnation, or transcends the cycle entirely. So what is this cycle truly? It is not a prison nor a punishment. It is a mirror maze of the soul's own making, a sacred labyrinth designed to awaken remembrance, and within it, there is always choice, not of form, but of awareness. The 49 days are not random. They are alchemical, 7x7, the union of spiritual and earthly cycles, a cosmic gestation period, a soul's chrysalis. And for those who see beyond the veil, it is a second birth, far more profound than the first. If the soul journeys through a 49-day cycle after death, then how we live today shapes what we'll face tomorrow. The great mystics did not study death to escape life. They studied it to master it. And the first step to mastering the post-death journey is to live with awareness. Daily death practice. Die before you die. The mystic poet Rumi once wrote, "Die before you die." He wasn't speaking of physical death, but of the ego's surrender. In both Sufi and Tibetan traditions, spiritual practice simulates death. Meditation mirrors the dissolution of the senses. Breathwork mimics the letting go of the body. Silence brings you into the clear light of awareness. A simple practice. Each night before sleep, imagine your consciousness gently leaving your body. Let go of your name, roles, thoughts. Imagine yourself floating into a luminous space where nothing but pure being remains. Let this become a ritual rehearsal, a sacred preparation for the real transition. Why does this matter? Because what you practice in life becomes your instinct in death. The soul trained to release, surrender, and recognize the light will do so with grace when the moment comes. Navigating grief with sacred timing. Now, let's flip the lens. What about those who've passed? The 49-day cycle offers us a mystical map to support our loved ones on their journey. In Buddhist cultures, rituals are performed daily or weekly during this window, not to appease spirits, but to guide the soul through each stage. Chanting, offerings, and meditations are directed toward clearing confusion, easing attachment, and helping the departed find peace. Here's how you can honor someone in the 49-day window. Create an altar. Place their photo, a candle, and symbols of light, like a crystal or lotus. Offer light. Daily, light a candle each evening and silently speak to their soul. Send love, forgiveness, and peace. Recite mantras or prayers. If you resonate with any tradition, chant sacred sounds to create a clear, energetic path. Hold the vision. Visualize them surrounded by light, rising joyfully through realms of clarity and healing. But most importantly, release them. Don't cling. Don't call them back with grief or guilt. Let your love become a current that carries them forward. Aligning your life with the Bardo teachings. To live in alignment with the 49-day teachings is to live lightly, not in detachment, but in lucid presence. This means clear your karma. Daily, reflect. What did I say, do, or think today that created harmony? What created harm? Make amends while you're alive. Purge the false self. Notice how much of your life is built on illusion, roles, fears, identities. Begin to let them go now so they don't haunt you in the Bardo. Cultivate recognition. Train your mind to recognize truth, even in chaos. This skill is essential in the afterlife realms where illusion takes form. One powerful method is dream yoga, a Tibetan practice of becoming conscious in dreams. If you can awaken in dreams, you can awaken in death. Try this. As you fall asleep, repeat, "I will know I'm dreaming." Eventually, you will, and that awareness will echo into the afterlife. The teachings of the 49-day cycle are not meant to frighten. They are not meant to control. They are an invitation to live with presence, to release what is false, to remember that death is not darkness, it is a passage, and you are not just a passenger, you are the navigator. What if death is not the end, but a revealing, not a disappearance? but a return. For 49 days after death, the soul walks between echoes and awakenings, passing through veils of memory, mirrors of karma, and gates of infinite choice. It is a journey far more profound than myth or religion has told us, because it is not about reward or punishment. It is about recognition of self, of truth, of the light we carry and the shadows we still hold. The teachings of the 49-day cycle are a map, not just for the dead, but for the living, because how you live determines how you will die, and how you die shapes what comes next. So ask yourself, what am I holding on to that I wouldn't want to carry beyond this life? Can I learn to let go now instead of waiting until the veil is pulled away? If I were to leave this world tonight, would I walk into the light or recoil from it? You see, death doesn't wait for us to be ready, but wisdom does. And when we begin to explore these mysteries, not with fear, but with reverence, we begin to reclaim a part of ourselves long forgotten. A deeper awareness, a higher truth, a stillness behind the noise of life. So whether you are seeking to understand your own soul's journey, or to guide a loved one across the threshold, remember, the journey through the bardo is not a punishment, it is a purification. And when we walk it with awareness, we turn death into a doorway and life into a sacred preparation. If this transmission awakened something within you, share it. Reflect on it. Explore the teachings further. And above all, live consciously. Because your soul is always watching, and its next journey has already begun.